I'm fresh from Singapore.
And boy, are your arms tired.
Yes, a lot of
Ha
flapping. It
ha!
was a, it was a long ride. It's a long ride. Especially when you get kind of come down from Alaska down the Pacific coast. It's
My favorite
tough.
thing was like you texting me this morning. You're like, "Hey, you still down for the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool." It's like, "I'll be home at like 2:30."
No, it never. Nothing ever have. And then so what happened is the traffic on the five coming back from because
Sure.
I got into Burbank. I didn't get to LAX, which would have been even worse had I been in LAX. By the way, there was no way to predict
Yeah.
that debacle there. But yeah, no. And then as I was coming back, I was like, oh crap, time's running out, time's running out. And as soon as I walked in, and I was like, okay, oh, my setup is not configured. I had to bring my laptop, I had to reconnect the laptop, set up everything. So I was not ready and I was hoping no technical problems. So here we are. Okay, brighten up the picture a
Hey,
little bit.
you made it,
But
man.
I
We're
made it, yeah,
here.
fresh off a flight straight from Singapore because that's how we do it, man. If we weren't going to do it in Singapore, we're going to do it fresh off the flight from Singapore.
Yeah.
So I'm just exhausted. I'm sleepy. I'm actually very, very much a sleepy person right now, but I'm happy that we're back. I'm happy we're
Yes.
home. I'm home, and hopefully be back to normal. And yeah, sorry, I may mumble a little bit. I'm a little bit. I'm seriously exhausted. It's one of
This is
those long
great.
days. But yeah,
Well, welcome everybody to a tech hangout live stream podcast
yes,
affair.
Friday
Best of our
afternoon
week, where
chill
two
type
old
of, yeah.
guys talk about their last week of using ridiculously fun tech products. And this was a big week.
This
This
was
was a
a
real big week. Why don't you tell the audience why you are Mr. International Jet Setting Man of Mystery
Mr.
again?
Worldwide, Mr. Worldwide,
Mr.
Mr.
Worldwide!
Worldwide, TK No, so obviously it's happy OnePlus Open Day and a week actually for everybody that the announcement and finally we're able to talk about them. Our devices have been it's been a hard secret. Let's just say that it's been a very hard secret. And this time actually Juan and I both have the same color. We both are
Yeah,
rocking the black one.
yeah, it's good
The
times.
a little bit of that fake leather on the back that gives you that nice little premium material experience. But no, I so out of the not out of the blue, but like coincidentally, I also got invited to Oppo's launch of their version of the phone. So we all know
Uh-oh.
obviously there's two
Like,
variants. Basically,
they're
it's the same
cousins.
phone. They're cousins, more like twins separated at birth, but then adopted by different families. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and they later run into each other, and they're like, "No way, you are no," like, you know what I mean. Like that kind of. I feel like that's the relationship if the N3 and the Open ever meet. They're like,
Yeah.
"No way, your symbol isn't." Yeah, no. So I got a chance to I got a chance to play with the Oppo N3 Flip. So I was part of the launch event of that. We had last week we posted a lot of our videos. A lot of content came out on that device. But technically, the official launch event for that device was actually on Thursday, Singapore time.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, the N3 as well, and of course the OnePlus Open, different locations. But I was there with Oppo for the N3 Flip, and then of course, coincidence, since I'm physically in the same location, the N3 as well. So I got a chance to play with that as well. But that was a very hard conversation to do, man. Like I had the N3 in my hand, but I
Yep.
can't call it the OnePlus Open because it's just legalities and stuff. Because the launch event for the OnePlus was like a few hours later, so there was also kind of like
Mm-hmm.
Oppo and OnePlus decided not to have the same their launch event at the same time, the same day, but that's not the same time. So again, that was why. Yeah, I was there checking out. Apparently, the Oppo Pad 2, which pretty much is the
Mm-hmm.
OnePlus Pad. That was
Yeah.
very surprising to see. I was like, hey, I played with that one, and then
I mean, anymore, don't we feel like we're going to be seeing these sort of umbrella
yeah,
corporation product launches closer and closer?
yeah.
I mean, I want to get into some of the specific differences because you've got the that Oppo, and we've both been playing with the OnePlus, but they seem like they're pretty close in
They're
terms
very
of hardware.
so. I'll say this. I don't have the N3. There was a specific thing. I have the N3 Flip. So the
Right.
N3, which is the Oppo
But you got
variant
to
of
go
that, is
hands on.
I got a chance to play
Yeah.
with that one, and I also saw some of our friends that had access to them, so I got a chance to play with that a little bit before. The the look and feel of the device, with the exception of the fact that the Chinese market and the international market on the Oppo side got more variants, more color variants. Like
Hmm.
in China, there's a red version of it. There's a red leather, red vegan leather version.
Red
In
leather. Do they have a yellow leather so you can do the tongue twister?
I wish
Red leather,
no, I
yellow
wish
leather, red leather, yellow
they
leather.
had what
No.
they had that. So they had the gold, they had the red, they had the green and the black in Asia, in China. In the other markets that they're supporting, they're only doing the gold and black. They're not doing the green. Well, Plus gets the black and the green for the U.S. market, and then Europe only gets the black. So there's a specific delineation, and it seems like Oppo is going to the Middle East, where OnePlus is keeping to North America and Europe, I think, and India. So it's I think just look at it this way: Oppo's covering some market, OnePlus is covering some market, but everybody gets to play with the N3/Open, and I think that's the best part. We get the same device software wise, with the exception of one piece of functional software that I feel like we won't get, and it's specifically called Oppo Share, and that one we just don't get. It did not transfer over to our devices. So that device, yeah. So those are the two devices, the N3 Flip and the N3, and it is absolutely a beautiful color. Material on the back is a little bit smoother than what we have. Although the
Hmm.
cases that come for these devices, it seems like all four cases have that fake leather feel to the back of them. So you're pretty much, if you put a case on it, you're not really going to feel the difference overall, other than the color
Yeah.
change. Um, but yeah, man. Oh, and then I got a chance to see a day before the launch event. Oppo invited me to this. It was an innovation challenge that they were having different companies bring in technologies and different like inventions to try to improve tech experience and so on. And one of them that really caught my eye was a paper battery. It's
Oh.
a company that's trying to make batteries more into a layered experience. So you
Yeah.
basically create a layer when it's super thin, flexible battery that doesn't damage if if you bend it, and then you basically stack it to the level of capacity that you want. And they're not only thinking obviously mobile devices, they're thinking cars and
Sure.
innovation for cochlear replacements, so that people don't have to have implants in their ears. They could use external sources that provide better hearing. There was a lot of innovation, a lot of good tech. So that was the
Very
day
cool.
before, but then yeah, after that it was
So,
the
just a heads up, and
yeah.
so not to completely derail the conversation, but you are buffering a lot, and
I
you
am
keep
buffering.
flipping like potato quality
Wow,
on
because
this
that's how we do it.
on the stream.
Okay, let me see what
So,
I can do.
we can keep following up on like
Uh,
the cool tech and stuff. I mean, those product and those tech showcases are always really interesting, and
okay.
definitely battery tech has been getting a lot of attention recently with Honor
Yeah.
doing a different kind of battery configuration for their foldable. And
Yeah. No.
it's been
Absolutely.
exciting to see as these companies have found other ways of refining this general idea of two panels that fold together.
hmm
And for both the Oppo and the OnePlus, I've been very impressed with the style of manufacturing. So both of us have we both have videos out talking about different
Yeah.
aspects of using the phone. So I don't want to just regurgitate our videos, but
Yeah.
some of the behind the scenes in using this has been one of the funnest something different phones
hmm
to show my family and friends. Because if I go and I hand someone something like my Duo, it's very apparent like something is different. And I never really had bumpers or anything on my
hmm
Duo. But for some reason, the initial time that I hand someone the OnePlus Open, they kind of look at it like it's a regular phone. It seems like it takes them just that millisecond longer
To realize it's
to
actually
see that something's different and that
there's
this thing
this
can
this is separation between two. Yeah.
that it can open up, especially when you put the bumpers, the
hmm
included like plastic case bumpers on it. There's not that immediate recognition of what it is. It takes just that tiny little bit. I don't know about in your experiences, but the second you stray from like your closest circles of family and friends who know what we do for a living,
hmm
um, don't you find that people are still surprised at actually like handling some kind of foldable? It's not something a lot of people are very familiar with.
Well, they treat it very much like very much like a very fragile piece of tech.
As they should.
I'll say during my travels, being that obviously, yeah, the device was under embargo, and obviously I couldn't share that much into it, but I had quite a few people looking at me, like when I'm sitting there and I'm opening up the phone
Hmm.
and I'm using it, and then when I close it, because it doesn't look like it's supposed to open. Uh, Oppo and OnePlus, right? At least I mean, for the design of the Open, it's it's quite a bit thinner. It's
Yeah,
not as thin. I almost want to say it's almost it gives me a little bit of a duo feel to it when you open it up because
a
it's
little.
a more of a
Yeah,
boxy experience. It's not very thick. Even where the camera bump obviously sits at the top,
hmm,
most of the experience when you're holding it, you're not really touching that area. And even when you turn the device, it still sits in an area where it doesn't perturb the experience. And I like that. I like the fact that it was easy to work with. The hinge hasn't. I mean, obviously we haven't had it for months, but for the amount of time that we've had it, didn't feel like it got it didn't degrade. It didn't feel like it got looser. It still holds very well. The angles,
sure.
the feel of the phone definitely still. The fact that it's
Now,
lighter.
don't go back on your script and spoil your video
No, no,
though.
no. Absolutely. I got to
When
stop
you're
doing that.
handing it off to other people,
Yeah, yeah.
like for example, my daughter was playing balloons on my OnePlus Open, and my mom comes in, and so there's a moment. I have this photo of my daughter and my
Hmm.
mom playing tower defense on the OnePlus Open together, and it's just those little moments where she goes to pick it up, and it's open, and she uses an amount of force that I feel she was trained to use from picking up her old iPad.
Okay. And
And
pushes.
that's not what the OnePlus Open is. So it's like my mom almost turned this, $1,700 foldable into a frisbee, um, because you expect like a tablet is a tablet, a phone is a phone, and like the first time I had it closed and I handed it to my dad, and he was like, "This is like it feels like a normal phone."
Yeah.
And so that to me is one of the sneaky design aspects when we're looking at. Actually, I've got the Oppo website up here, but let me switch over to the OnePlus site,
Yeah. Hmm.
and fire up the OnePlus Open. Oh wait, what I should probably do is do the not the order page. Oh, I don't like the way that OnePlus like
Hey,
learn more is a tiny little link. So
yeah.
playing with this phone, because I just finished uploading. It's going to publish on the Patreon this afternoon, and it's going to go live probably over the weekend. I
Hmm.
did end up just sitting down and doing a quick duo versus open, not Oppo, open comparison. And it is shocking to me picking up the OnePlus Open, where with the case on, it weighs less than my Duo. So I think we're finally starting to head in that direction. We're finally starting to take those steps away for the things that will finally pry the Surface Duos out of my hands
Hmm.
as my go-to solution for just mini folding tablet. That build quality, that weight, it's playing a much bigger factor in what I'm trying to pick up than I was expecting it to.
It actually, and in some of the aspects or some of the experience in the UI elements pull a lot from the Duo. I felt a little bit more like I was using a Duo 3 or something like that. In some of like setting up different experiences in there. The I think it's hard not to compare, right? It's hard not to compare this to other devices on the market. I saw a lot of videos posting basically.
TK, I believe
Um,
it's easy because it's uncomparable.
the other the other experience
Boom.
so much better. Yeah, no, I could have given you the sneak peek to the answer there. I think what OnePlus is trying to do and what Oppo's trying to do with this device is they didn't pull out, they didn't hold back. They literally basically they gave us everything and anything that they envisioned in a premium foldable smartphone. This is the one thing
Hmm.
I want to leverage. I want to explain that when you get this device, you're not getting, and I'm not trying to point fingers at other manufacturers. Obviously, every manufacturer has their their strengths and then their weaknesses.
This
And
is
I
funny.
feel
This is like the closest TK is gonna get to delivering some snark.
I can't, but I know I'm trying to. It's a fine line because okay, look, I'm a firm believer of yes, you should always be able to see, make your comparisons, make your opinions on this. But
Sure.
whenever I review a device, I'm not reviewing it because it's based on another device. I don't like doing videos like that because for me, I feel like when I'm going into those kind of conversations, I'm going in with
Right.
either a predetermined decision in my mind that I'm trying to
Hmm.
justify in a video. I like to let the tech speak for itself. if it stands on its own two legs, and the promises that the company makes on the in the event and so on are proven or are coming or something to that effect, then the decision ends up being to the user, whoever wants to invest their money into a piece of tech. Now,
Right.
yes, there are benefits obviously to compare, and I feel like people do that all the time. And that I think that's one of the reasons why you and I kind of went slightly different than everybody else in our
Yeah.
approach to the OnePlus Open videos. We didn't jump in with a day one review type of a thing. You know what I
So
mean?
and
Like, no,
also I posted this on Twitter, and if you'll
yeah,
allow
I
me
saw.
another moment of smart snark in person,
Please,
anyone
please.
who
So
was really
soapbox
writing
is
this
yours.
up, yeah,
Yeah.
anyone who was really writing this up as a review, we only got a pre-release patch,
Mm-hmm.
not the final software that's going to be going out to consumers, but a pre-release patch 2 days before the embargo lifted. So you tell me who can properly review all of the ins and outs and performance and expectations on a super expensive premium folding tablet in 2 days. And I've also got a bridge to sell you in New York. I purposely reached out to TK at the event to say, hey, we should split some of this up. And I think we're both sort of a mind where there are some companies who are judged, they're graded on a very ungenerous curve
Yeah.
when tech
Yeah.
reviewers get to use those products under embargo,
Yeah.
because they will deliver a conclusion on that product in a state that no consumer will ever see. And what
And
we're using
yeah.
right now, no
Hmm.
consumer, no one who buys the Open is going to see the software that we've been using.
Exactly. And like you said in your tweet, more than likely there is going to be another update closer to when the actual public release availability for this
Yeah.
device. And what I say, what I really always found, like I found it, and I'm not trying to point fingers, but like one title was even saying, right hardware, wrong price. I'm like,
Yeah. Compared to what?
how? Compared to what? What are you comparing wrong price? Is it just by de facto because it's a OnePlus? It means it needs to be
It's exactly
cheaper?
it. Because
Yeah,
I got a
and I don't
bunch of
understand
comments
that.
about that. Yeah.
That
And
threw
I'm
me
sure you
off
did
right out of the
too.
box. No, but that's the thing. Like this prejudgment. I got a comment on one of my posts on Twitter. I mean, on Instagram. It's just like slow SoC, bad cameras, and I'm like, come on, dude. Seriously, if you're trying to just egg me to start a conference, start an argument over something like that, it's like
Right.
obviously you don't know the tech, and then number two, you don't have the phone, so therefore, like it's
Well, and regardless, because I mean, we can come to conclusions on products that we don't own, but
at,
it really is the gamesmanship. On
yeah.
Instagram, I shared a couple sample photos. I'm very impressed with the cameras on the OnePlus Open. But then again, it's also, I feel like techies who have been complaining about OnePlus cameras, like anyone who can't get a phenomenal photo out of a OnePlus since the OnePlus 8 Pro is basically telling you that they are miserable at photography. They're basically telling on themselves that they're that bad at photography that they can't get an incredible shot out of a OnePlus. And I think you should believe those people. They are telling you the truth that they suck super bad. But the same thing, like someone on my photo post on Instagram was like, they're good, but it's not like anything we haven't seen before. And just on a whim, I click on the guy's page and it's just pixel, 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 pixel. Oh my God, I love my pixel. Pixels are so great. And you're like, yeah, that kind of plays. That tracks.
It just my thing is you don't have to be one team only and one team only. Like if it's not this thing, you have to bash it. And that, I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, the experience of what we're getting here, this is. I mean, again, I always say that if the tech can't speak for itself and it can't hold its own, then you're rightfully able to criticize it based on what it's not able to. But you have to do the work. You have to show
Yeah.
that it doesn't do that it does not perform. Um, I got a very unique opportunity that I got to travel internationally with the OnePlus Open and put an eSIM
Mm-hmm.
into it, configure it. And I'm not sure why I'm
Yeah.
getting a call here.
I
Sorry.
did a weekender trip out to go hit the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, which is why my sort of podcast schedule got a little off this week. And felt pretty good not traveling with the laptop, knowing I could turn to my OnePlus Open to get a variety of different tasks done. Even things that the pre-brief that we were
Mhm.
at were incorrect, like having video output through the
That was a
USB-C port.
yeah, that was I was very happy for you to be able to prove us not wrong, but like at least point that out because that was even something that what's it called? Oppo didn't share.
Nope.
I
I felt so
after
bad. So
yeah, like
Mishal was sitting at my table
yeah, yeah.
while we were doing the brief. I thought he saw me because it took a long time to set these up because we were on like the hotel conference room Wi-Fi and it was just not working well at all.
No.
But I thought he saw that I got it through the setup process and I plugged in a pair of TCL glasses while we were at lunch together. I wasn't making a huge deal out of it because I really wanted to scurry off and tell my buddy TK first, but I was like, oh, hey, this is cool. So there's this whole conversation, I think it was on Threads.
Yeah.
And like, Michelle's like, oh yeah, it doesn't have video output because that's what they said at the Q&A when someone asked. And I felt awful because like, Michelle, you were sitting at my table, dude. Like you were right next to me. It wasn't even like there were people sitting in between us. Our backpacks were touching, you know, like, oh no. And so someone linked my video to Michelle like, well, some gadget guy would disagree, jerk who doesn't know anything about phones. And you're like, oh, that's not how we do this. Me and Michelle are cool. No,
Yeah. No,
don't
no,
do
no, no, no.
that.
Not
Oh,
that.
that's bad.
So when I was in Korea with on for the Samsung thing, that was one thing. That was one of the first things he asked, and
Yeah.
he linked one of my videos. I did a reel or an Instagram reel for it because a lot of people weren't talking about it. Like nobody was mentioning that
No.
you have video out, and the fact that the Open and the N3 support video out. It is a absolute feature that you need to be aware of. Like AR glasses, Roku glasses, X-Real glasses. Those are big ticket items.
Mhm.
And oh, speaking of which, I forgot, and I don't know where I put my glasses. Like I didn't. I was supposed to pack them on the trip, and I
Oh
get on the flight,
no.
and I don't know where they are. So this is why when you were talking about glasses and video out, I'm like, where
God,
did
that
I
would
put
be
it?
the worst trip ever if I didn't have my XR
No, dude,
glasses with
seriously,
me.
16 hours without a single. I mean, oh my god. And then on
I
the
was
way
like,
back,
it's a 90-minute flight to New Mexico. Like, it's longer for us to drive down to LAX than it is to fly
to fly to
to
New
New
Mexico.
Mexico. And even then, I was like, I need my glasses. I need
No, but I
them.
seriously like, don't know where they are. I'm right now. I'm like, that is not a good thing. But so the point obviously is it's little things like that, like the fact that we
Yeah.
have video output. Some of the multitasking functions that Oppo, the way Oppo introduced it was basically PC-like functionalities on your foldable. And I truly believe that that recent function that we have, or the recent file function that we have with the drag and drop into an email,
Yeah.
so nice. It's such a nice thing. Like you take a whole bunch
Sure.
of pictures, you open up Gmail, you don't have to click and trying to find the finder. No, click recent, boom, 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 send. Um,
Like with just a
Little
minor
things.
tweak, I really hope that we'll see that become just a proper file manager, not
Yeah,
like the recent organization where you've got it divided into categories. Just turn it into a half screen file manager
yeah,
that
or a
then I
pop,
can
yeah,
drag and
like a
drop
free
from
float.
any folder.
Yeah,
And we're so close. We're so close to a Windows like experience. And again, Microsoft started us off on that conversation with drag and drop in Android through the
hmm
duos. Samsung, I think, helped contribute a lot to the direction
yeah.
that we see
So
Google
Samsung
going
does
on
that as yeah.
Android
They do
13.
support that. It's not like it's a foreign thing to
But I
Samsung.
haven't
Yeah,
seen anything like OnePlus's implementation. And it's working on apps that I never would have suspected. Like I was dropping audio files into my podcast mixing program, which is, if you've been following my channel, Audio Evolution is ancient.
hmm
It's an old Android app. So the notion that it is properly recognizing when a file is being dropped on its timeline, that it's able to do that is kind of incredible.
it
Like
is.
that's a desktop operating system
And
awareness
and and I,
of file
and
management.
LumaFusion runs because from my side, I remember the day we went to the football game with TCL.
Yeah.
I edited a reel entirely done on
Mm-hmm.
on the open, and I was running it in LumaFusion, setting it up, drag and dropping, doing everything, changing transitions, putting a little like all of that stuff. It's like so nice to do. The form factor is very conducive, and again, it doesn't feel like it's two phones. Like, I don't feel like when I have this in my pocket that it's two separate phones. And I will
No.
say that obviously I'm using a very thin case. We still haven't seen a lot of cases and accessories that are going to come in. If those may change the experience, but the one they include in the box, super nice, super slim,
Hmm.
and just gives a little bit of a coverage. It minimizes the bump. If you remove it, it just
A little
the
bit,
bump is
yeah.
not as bad. Not that it's bad. It just obviously, if you want the cameras, you want the performance, you need to have a little bump. We know that now. And the fact that the optics that we get in here, as we're, and, with some of the posts, because
Yeah.
I posted some pictures as well from Singapore, um, they're just crazy good.
It's really
Like
good hardware.
even in low light, I took a selfie with the whole marina from Singapore on top of
Yeah.
one of the buildings over there, and the bokeh, the little bubble lights in the background, all of that done like butter. Like,
I
it
mean,
was nice.
I was a little frustrated because, again, during the presentation, and I think they also repeated some of this on their live stream.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to untangle some of the marketing claims,
Hmm.
but I at least appreciated that OnePlus wasn't just look at all the megapixels. Don't you need more megapixels? But they were starting to draw some of those comparisons between things that I don't feel consumers really understand, like
Hmm.
the way that this stacked sensor from
Oh,
Sony
yeah, yeah.
acquires light and processes light gives it the capabilities that are similar to a 1-inch type sensor, and that's
Hmm.
accurate. But the way that it's put into marketing, it just makes it sound like it's the same as a 1-inch sensor. And you're like, no, no.
Yeah.
Optically, it performs very different than a 1-inch type sensor, but the way that individual photons gather in trenches for pixels and subpixels
Hmm.
and divisions of subpixels gives you light acquisition capabilities similar to a larger
Better light
sensor.
acquisition, that's similar to what
So
you'd expect. Yeah.
this feels like kind of a return to the a very close, like a kind of a return to the glory days of like the OnePlus 9.
Hmm.
We've got a
Okay. Yeah.
better ultra wide sensor, we've got a
Yeah.
really nice telephoto sensor, and we've got a
Really nice.
main camera sensor that's just nipping at the heels of a more photography focused phone. I I feel like there's still a little polish that we need to see on the software. Even with the
Absolutely.
patch,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is one of the slowest night modes I've ever used. I was out doing my some of my low light samples for the camera deep dive that we'll eventually get to. And I was getting like 8 and 9 second hold still. We're gonna do a night mode shot, and you're like, ooh, well,
Okay.
that's not good in an age of like
How low light was the low light? I mean, are we talking about there's some?
you'd have. I mean, like if you've ever seen my camera reviews, it gets pretty dark out here. There's one
Yeah.
setup. There's one setup I do where, like, to the human eye, you can't see anything
Okay.
except
Yeah.
for like some of the little walkway lights, and they
Hmm.
barely illuminate out past the housing of the little light.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those I expect, like even on my Vivos, that can be like a 6 second hold still long exposure. But even on like I'm standing in front of a street lamp, so I'm getting as much night light as
Hmm.
I can get in my neighborhood, and I go to hit the button, and it
It's
could
a little.
still be like an 8 or 9 second scan. So little things like that, I feel like the software still needs to catch up to the hardware.
Hmm.
Outside of pushing it to the limits of a smartphone camera setup, this has been phenomenal. HDR, daylight photography, 4K 60 across all three sensors.
I like
I
that.
was a
Yep.
little disappointed that HDR is not available on the ultra wide, but you do get HDR on the main and the telephoto. And that telephoto, I don't know where they came from, but OmniVision has been surprisingly good lately. So
It's
the
really the this is one of my more favorite telephoto
yeah,
lenses. Even at 6x, even when we go into
hmm
that lossless zoom, when they're doing the sensor
it's good.
cropping, it is absolutely a beautiful trick to do as
Yeah,
opposed to going digital, doing that
it's
hybrid combination.
Xiaomi level repixeling.
Yeah.
So that mosaic that Xiaomi is really good at and that Google got way better at with the 7 Pro,
Yeah.
the OnePlus Open is neck and neck with Pixel 7 Pros. it
in some areas, actually,
resampling.
I was in some of the areas I was shooting a lot with the Pixel 8 Pro because obviously we just got our 8 Pro
Right,
before
right,
I
right.
left, and with the Open, and in some areas, like seriously, like they're getting pretty close to each other, especially when
Yeah.
I'm doing like the 3x, the a little bit more of a zoom, and even just in full like daylight, the image processing. This is one of the things I've always wanted, and not that I'm not appreciating what OnePlus has done over the years,
How
improving
dare
their
you,
quality.
TK?
How
How
dare I?
dare you?
How dare you, my friend? That's how I say it.
It's funny because it means but.
Absolutely. If you didn't get it, please read the clip notes. This is one of the very few times where that synergy between OnePlus and Oppo has meant that we get the color science that I've appreciated from Oppo for quite some time. And it
Yeah.
transferred straight over. There was no
Yep.
transition, there was no changes. And I think this is where a lot of people are not, because they're not realizing, because if they only used OnePlus devices for the last few years, they're been experiencing OnePlus's flavor and improvements over the years for camera photography. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm saying is they've improved quite a bit. But there's also
Sure.
been where where Oppo's been more of the adventurous, experimental in the camera
Hmm.
department, much
Put a
more than
microscope on the back of your phone
absolutely. Every
because,
year we
yeah.
got a new Find X. It was like, what are we getting this year? And that's the type of technology, Vivo also on the other side, they've been, I feel like, much more advanced in that field than when
Sure.
OnePlus was
Taking bigger
heavily,
risks.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So getting that experience, and then I didn't get a chance to play too much with the N3, but on the few samples that I saw, that they didn't really, there was no difference
No.
with the settings being exactly the same. You're able to tune the configuration on the device to the
Yeah.
exact same
The
settings.
apps, and especially with the Find X6,
Yeah.
the apps are exceedingly similar. And this
Hmm.
partnership with Hasselblad, it's frustrating to me because I think a lot of techies start poo-pooing the camera partnerships, like, oh, it's just like whatever, it's just like a label or something,
Hmm.
but forgetting literally every time we've seen a manufacturer partner with a traditional photography brand, not the first year, but within a reasonable time frame, every single one of those phone cameras has gotten substantially better. Starting with Huawei,
Hmm.
into Nokia's and Lumia's. Every single time we've seen that camera company label,
Hmm.
I don't think it ever got enough credit. But like BlackBerry,
Yeah, Leica with Xiaomi right now, it's like crazy.
Leica with Xiaomi is
Relationship
crushing,
is like
like Huawei with
yes,
Leica used to
exactly.
crush.
Xiao
Vivo with Zeiss
was
is
Zeiss.
crushing. I
Yep.
mean, Sony is a photography company. They make great phone cameras too.
Yeah, yeah,
So every single time that we've paired this up,
yeah.
so the very first time that we got a Hasselblad label on a OnePlus,
Hmm.
I think it was a few kind of fun tricks. We got X-Pan later as like a feature upgrade to the camera after the launch of the phone, sure.
Hmm.
But the decisions a OnePlus camera makes, starting with the 9 Pro, fundamentally different than what OnePlus cameras used to do with like a 6 or a 6T or
Oh,
something
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's to me it's like we're purposely missing the point when it's a OnePlus. When it behooves us to find something to kind of shrug and say, "Oh, but that's just like a gimmick or something like
And but
that."
that's the thing.
But now we've got Oppo and OnePlus basically arriving at the same style.
Yep.
And that's really exciting because like, it doesn't really matter what region you're in. It doesn't really matter what company you end up buying into. There's a camera consistency now that is, it's very specific. It's a OnePlus flavor of photography. And I think the Hasselblad partnership has done a lot to kind
It,
of
it
help raise that game.
it's just like McDonald's French fries. They taste the exact same here as they taste in Paris. I
That's
don't know.
so creepy.
It is. It's just weird. No, but I'm just saying, it's like if you ever have to kind of like, how do I compare this to somebody else? It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's like if you have a restaurant, like a chain of restaurants that serves food in your area, and you go to another area that has the same chain of restaurants, aka
Sure.
McDonald's, and you're like, wait, the fries taste the same. I'm like, well, they're supposed to. You're supposed to
Yeah.
get that consistent experience. So this is what I'm hoping, and this is where I'm starting. I mean, obviously, the pre-orders are starting. They opened up. There's a lot of deals going on. The one thing that I think most people that were commenting on the whole, well, like this is the wrong, right hardware, wrong price. Like out of the box, OnePlus has this, and according to what they said again at the launch event, I'm hoping that that does actually stick. that they were going to have it for quite some time, where you can trade in any device, even if it's a busted device, and they'll
Yeah,
still give
and
you a
get at least
$200, at least
Yeah.
$200 off, making this a $14.99
But
easy.
I wanna attack wrong price immediately at MSRP.
Yeah,
That
I have my own reservations against that statement, because all they're
what
trying to
game are
do
we
there,
playing?
yeah, where's the standard? Where is that line in the sand that you suddenly just
Right.
OnePlus needs to be the discounted price at launch type of
Well,
a thing?
TK, it doesn't have wireless charging, and that's a fail.
Yeah,
This
okay,
one
so
feature has completely decided for every single person on the planet. One feature is all it takes for everybody to decide that it's not good enough or worth it's enough. And
and I'll
if it
say,
had that one feature, I would still not buy it because I would want a Samsung instead. But it doesn't have that feature, so I'm allowed to say that that's what's the deal breaker, because it broke the deal, because it's only one thing.
it's a very big deal. I know, and I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think we should just write it off at this point. Just call
So
it a day.
I can cherry pick one feature and then
So is
say
it
that that's
wrong
the only
hardware,
thing.
right price? Then can we change the title to that? I'd like that.
It's wrong hardware, wrong price. Nothing OnePlus can do unless they
No.
spend
Hey. I
$3
remember my basic
billion
math from
a
back
year
when I
on
was
marketing.
I remember my fifth grade math. Two negatives makes a positive, my friend. Wrong
By the
price, wrong.
transitive property.
That's a good thing, right? Isn't that how we do it?
But no, I want to attack this at MSRP because
Yeah.
at MSRP we have a 512 gig phone with some of the best cameras I've ever seen on a foldable.
Absolutely. This is the biggest thing ever. It's the same, and it's the same thing they did with their Flip.
Yep.
They didn't compromise on the hardware when it comes to the cameras. This is where people, like, like when you buy a Flip, you typically expect it to have average cameras, 12 megapixel cameras, both, one ultra wide, one standard. They put a legit telephoto lens on their flip phone, like a legit telephoto. Like, who has a telephoto on the flip phone? So that started there. And then when they went with their first foldable, they didn't hold back. Now, yes, they didn't give us a 1-inch sensor, but keep in mind that what they're giving you here is a trilogy, or basically a trifecta of perfect lenses to capture the moments that you want to be in.
It's
Using
like
the
a
internal,
baby version of the Find X.
absolutely,
Every sensor gets a
absolutely.
downgrade, but they're pretty close.
The Find X6 Pro still holds the crown. I will say that right now. Yes, the Find X6
So
Pro
good.
still holds the crown. But when
I'll
we start
fight you with
looking,
the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, but at this point we're debating
it's
the
a different,
two best
no.
cameras.
They're
camera
both great
packages.
pies. They're both great pies. There's just different flavors. It depends on the flavor of the pie that you like. And every time you walk around with either the 13 Ultra
So
or the Find X6 Pro, it's gonna be a blast.
I want to just wrap up that point about price, because it's not just storage. It's not just about having an 8 Gen 2. I mean, I posted my performance charts over on patreon.com/somegadgetguy.
I saw the email. I didn't get a chance to check it out. Sorry.
I am shocked at the performance OnePlus is getting out of a foldable, because if you understand any basic physics, we should always expect foldables to operate at a slight performance deficit, because you actually end up with less surface area to get heat out of the SoC. And OnePlus in the high performance battery mode is doing something voodoo in there to eke out some of the wins that I've seen in much more compute heavy tasks. And again, I test like video editing and rendering, I test audio mix down, I do a stupid test with batch photo processing. I've never seen anything like this. And it kind of breaks my casual assertion that foldables should always perform worse than their slate counterparts, because now OnePlus has broken how I grade my curve, grading on
Because
on that curve.
they've been treated more about the foldable function than about them being a phone. And I think initially, maybe within the first couple of years, maybe that was true. It
Well,
was more of a
but
you sacrificed certain things because you wanted that experience.
yeah,
But we're at the point now that like you mentioned it. I mean, Honor has already been proven. Xiaomi already has been proven, multiple generations of foldables. Samsung has 5 generations of foldables, and then of course OnePlus is coming into the game. But technically, this is the 3rd iteration, because we need to remember. This may
Oppo's
be
been
the
at this game for a while.
this may be the first OnePlus branded version, but Oppo has had here. Okay, good. This I actually do have hands on with.
But while you're
Oppo
digging that
has
up,
2 versions of
see,
this
I
already.
love that little guy. Hold on,
See, they have 2 versions of this already out on the market. They just didn't have them
so
internationally.
cute. I
It
love
is.
it.
No, little. But that's the thing. Like, it's the baby version. Like,
So
I don't know.
the frustration of that
slightly shorter. Yeah, see,
The
about the same
frustration of all
thickness.
of that has been people looking at foldables and they kind of just do what the commercials do, like,
Yeah.
look, I opened it. And you're like, okay, cool, but what do you do on it? And then we're trusting
Yeah.
people that can't review tablets to talk about what a foldable phone can do. And you're
It,
like, what do you do on it? Well, a tablet is a solution in search of a problem. Okay, so
make
tell
the
me what
solution.
problems it can solve.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's not. It's up to the user. If you have a problem, you would have to figure out if it could solve. And like, no. Don't play that game. But where I've been very consistently impressed and very consistently surprised is this feels like the best of every part of the OnePlus ecosystem right now. It
Yeah.
comes with more storage than either the phone or the tablet. It's got video output, with neither the phone or the tablet has. And it still maintains the fastest charging available in North America, which is another thing that I think Samsung and Apple heavy reviewers write off. Is it fundamentally changes your relationship with your phone, where I don't care about wireless charging when 10 minutes on a charger can get me about a day of use. And
It,
that's
it,
mixing between both screens without having to sit there and be worried about how much battery life I've got,
and
because
yeah.
another
No, no,
5 minutes will get me through the night.
no, but that was very, very, it's always been it's kind of like a big challenge for me when we change different devices, we jump from one phone to the other. I love the Xperia 1 Mark 5, and I really like
Yeah.
the Pixel 8 Pro. But while traveling, when you
It
have very
charged
little amount
so
of time,
slow.
it is so slow charging.
I was
It is
shooting the video and I accidentally had let my Pixel Fold get down to low battery warning.
it's
It's
not
so
it,
slow.
this is why, because I think with the comments that we saw, because we were at the same event, and then there was still some comments going on Twitter as well. I don't disagree that I feel like wireless charging is it's a feature that people appreciate and they like, and I like it as well, but I never use wireless charging to charge my device. I use it to top off. It's more of the resting, give me a couple of percentages in there, but I never rely
Yeah.
on it to charge my phone.
Well,
And
and have you played with wireless charging in your car? Because I cannot use it in Southern California in the summer.
so in the summer, it gets very hot because of the where it's
Yeah.
positioned. In Teslas, because the charger is under and behind the
Mm-hmm.
display, it never sits in the sun. So it's not as bad of a concern. And I,
Okay.
like I said, I appreciate having it in the car when I want to charge. But that charging speed when you go to wired connection, and also I wanted to kind of say this. I think I may have mentioned it at the launch when we were all together and so on. OnePlus makes an 80-watt car charger for your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's pretty great.
having that being said, walking all around in Singapore in 90 to 95-degree heat with full humidity and rain,
Yeah.
and coming back to the hotel all day with battery, come back, I sit down for maybe 30 minutes, change, whatever. I'm back to about 50% battery, and I'm like
Yeah.
ready to go. Like, this is the level. And then when I plug in my Pixel, I'm like, I got like maybe
Oh.
10%. And
Yeah.
it's not that I like don't want to like okay, so I understand battery safety, and I understand there are certain things
Sure.
that most American, I mean, with the exception of Moto, I feel like Moto is definitely up there. 30-watt is still there, but they do offer, I think, a faster charging, if I'm not mistaken, on
So
their
Moto is the only other company in North America that's selling a 67 watt. Is it
yeah,
67 or 68? But anyway, somewhere in there. It's
yeah,
above 60
it's
watt
above
charging.
60-watt
Yeah.
charging, and but those are the things that you really need to understand. I also appreciate it also in more Asian countries where, like where we hear some conversations in India where power goes out. You don't have
Yeah.
enough time to sit there and wait for the phone for an hour and whatever to charge up from 0 to 100%. You basically have 30 minutes or whatever. You plug it in, you get it off. And I think that's a very important tech. So it's not the fastest. I'll be very honest. Oppo does make faster devices. I think
And
Realme, if I'm not
internationally, it'll
mistaken,
support faster
yeah.
chargers, just not here in the United States.
So I tried it outside. It didn't go higher. I tried it
Oh, it
in
didn't?
Singapore. It did not go over. I mean, at least
The
it's
80
still
watt?
registered. It kept saying 67.
67. They might have it locked down just
They
for
may have it
the.
locked in. Yeah.
Yeah,
On the
that would make sense.
11, it does go up to
That'll
80
do.
watt. Yeah.
Yeah.
80 watt on the 11. That was true because the
So
moment I
I
left it.
gotta I
Yeah.
gotta put you on the spot. Mini Me has the Sophie's Choice question of the podcast. And TK, you got to answer this. It's going to gut you. Only asking on the software, do you prefer the OnePlus over the Pixel? Bum, bum,
I honestly, I like the
bum.
OnePlus more. I like Pixel. I like Pixel.
Oh, snap, boy!
No, I mean the reality is customizations and built-in features. I find OnePlus launcher is more customizable.
Yeah,
At least and you're saying OnePlus and Pixel. You're not saying OnePlus Open. There's a little different there. But the ability of changing the grid, the shortcuts, the different options that you're able to change in
sure.
there, I feel like Oppo and OnePlus have had more customizations built into their UI, and they keep adding
Hmm.
more and more. Pixel, I think Material U is nice. I think it's their own flavor of Pixel software. And again, we're talking software. We're not talking about how the images work, how the
Sure.
all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
from a
The
software
whole rest.
standpoint, yeah.
Yeah.
Oxygen OS for me would be if I had to choose, I would go with Oxygen OS because it's
All
closer
right.
to what I used to do back in the day. I used to mod my
And
phone to kind of
yeah,
get closer to what that is.
to get some of those additional features.
Yeah.
I really like what the because I'm narrowing Mini Me's question down to Pixel Fold versus OnePlus Open just for us being OnePlus Open week.
Absolutely.
I really like what the Pixel Fold is doing, and I
Hmm.
like how clean, how familiar it will be if we start playing with more Android tablets that
Yeah.
are using similar software UIs. But the additions of how OnePlus is adding better navigation tools, like we've been
Hmm.
saying with this is so nitpicky. It's not a fair, like I would not use this as like a data point for telling someone to buy or not buy the Pixel Fold.
Hmm.
This is very, very Juan being persnickety because he's used a bunch of different silly gadgets. But like if I pull this up,
Yeah.
okay, so I've got a web browser up and it's blown out because of my camera settings, but
That's how it is.
here's a gesture where you get your oops, I don't want to send it all the way home. Now I pull up the little dock at the bottom.
Yeah.
So that was one little swipe. Now I tap again and it pulls the traditional app
App
drawer,
drawer. Yeah.
blocking everything. And there's almost no conveyance that from here I can long press, drag. You have to deliberately drag off of the app drawer, which takes up a good chunk of your screen, and then you can split screen two apps side by side. Because if anyone even knows about split screening, it's been because of the multitasking view
Hmm.
on an Android phone, not because of any other additional gesture. There's very little conveyance in how do you shortcut the activity of getting two apps side by side. And when you pull up that traditional when you pull up the traditional app drawer, I worry that people are just going to treat this like an old iPad. Oh, now I can open up another app full screen. I pull up this thing and then I can open up another app full screen. And it's the little changes that OnePlus, the little additions that OnePlus has for the recents folder and for a half screen app drawer that I think better sell two apps at the same time, the multitasking experience and getting two apps together.
Sure. And,
I
and and the fact that you could just do this,
yeah.
swipe down and center. You just already open, and I just click whatever other app I want to
Hmm.
open, and now I'm split screen.
The gesture support is
Very,
pretty nice.
but it's
It's
consistent.
never going to be
This is the
yeah,
swipe down in the center has been in their devices for quite some time. So this isn't
yeah.
like they've continued it, and it translates very nicely. The side launcher, even when you're using it on the front
Yep.
display, they they have a side launcher that
A
goes on
little
the top,
shortcut off the side there too.
and it has your recent files on it right there. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to zoom in into,
And I
but like
want to say
right there.
Was it Android 12 that introduced the more organic float and pause for floating windows? You know how
Oh,
you
you
would
mean,
drag an app to the top corner of the screen and then it would
and then it
switch
goes
to a
into pop up.
floating
I
window?
want to say it's
I want to say it was Android 12.
it could be 12. I
But
almost want to say that I think OnePlus and Xiaomi have no, sorry, Xiaomi's had it longer. They may
okay.
have had it
All right.
earlier. I think
I
it
couldn't
wasn't
remember
built in.
who
Yeah,
beat
yeah, yeah.
who.
It was Xiaomi
Yeah.
that had it first. Oppo brought it in ColorOS 11,
Okay.
and the reason why I
But
know that is because it was one of my the floating pop-up windows, what they call it.
what I like there is we're watching BBK in general, but specifically the Oppo flavor of the BBK side of the business. Very consistent.
This is how
And
my day started, by the way.
that's
I
great.
saw at the
I love
airport in
that.
Singapore, they have a thing called the Jewel, which is like a massive mall built into the airport. So at 6 a.m. in the airport, your boy is standing there. The waterfall wasn't even on,
Oh
was supposed to work.
yeah.
And that's how my day started. 6 a.m. Singapore time, which is 6 p.m. New York time, 3 p.m. here. So for your time at 3 p.m. on Friday. Yeah, Thursday is
Hmm.
when I started to get here.
Coming
Anyways, go on.
back. It took a long time
No,
to come
that's how
back.
long my day was. Like seriously, that's when it
Yeah.
started. And it
You're
was
technically on tomorrow, but it's today,
it's
and
dude,
that's
it was
great.
so weird being in the future. Like I want to
Yeah.
tell you, going to Singapore, I
Just
lost
tell
an
me what
entire day.
stocks to invest in. I feel like
But
it's
I
really
lost
rude
all of
that you just
Monday.
hide.
The 16th does not exist in my
Yeah.
memory. I did nothing on Monday the 16th. Like I was on a plane. I landed on the morning of the 17th. I left on Sunday the 15th. So the 16th does not exist. I lost an entire 24 hours, man. Like the things I could have been doing,
It's
playing
tough.
games and stuff. No, I know. I finished the whole season of Demon Slayer because they just released a new
Nice.
one, and I binge watched. I actually took my Xiaomi pad with me, which is that little tablet just surprises me so much. But I also loaded up a lot of content on here.
Yeah.
I have a new pair of buds that I got from. Oh my god, I forgot the name of it. It's why do I always forget these things?
Is that the
Uh,
Poly?
yeah, the polys.
Yeah.
I finally got the polys. Did you get
I
them?
just got them too.
Hey,
Tell me that this case isn't kind of rad.
dude,
Like,
on a plane, Bluetooth connectivity. I was watching everything
yeah.
on Bluetooth because I daisy chained this to the stereo system
Yup.
into the airplane. The
It's
best
like a
thing
little
ever.
transmitter, and then
All
it
your
comes with
controls
its own
straight
3.5 millimeter to USB-C
adapter.
cable.
Oh my
It's
god,
kind of ridiculous.
it is a win for the there. Sorry.
We'll apparently both have something to say about Poly in future videos.
There'll be
So,
poly conversations going on.
it's time for us to render our final conclusion, where we'll never talk about OnePlus ever again.
Oh man, that was so
Um,
quick. Okay, yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
guess we
but
could do.
we're actually late.
We're
We're
late to
so
our full.
2000 and late. We should have had our
I
long-term all comparisons, full review, don't buy it, buy something
uh,
else instead video out
I'll tell you. I'll tell
like
you.
yesterday.
Overall, from the pre-release software with a little bit of hiccups that we had to deal with till we got that patch to fix some of the things in
Hmm.
there. The device, it's a phone that I'm moved. I'll say this. This is going to be my primary driver, my main daily
Nice.
driver device. This is the device I'm moving into. The reason why I
Hmm.
didn't move into it yet is they told us about the patch that was supposed to come out, and it came out again. The
Sure.
reason why I kept
Yeah.
mentioning Monday the 16th as a day that I missed,
Th-
everybody got their patch
were
update on
lots
Monday,
of
and I got it a Tuesday because I landed
yeah.
there.
You were
That
even a
was the
day
day.
later.
Yeah. But look, I'm very impressed with the first. Let's hardware wise, I'm impressed with what they've done. I'm
Hmm.
impressed with the quality of the materials, the hinge, the cameras.
Well, this is a good question we got from Hassam, just to kind of interject and to support what you're saying right there.
Yeah,
What color do you like better? Because we got to see both, but we both ended up with the faux leather black.
yeah, and I got to see all three, and um,
OnePlus, please. Let's stay
okay,
on title
uno
for.
más, no problema, uno más. Oh no, one, yeah, uno más.
So I'll tell you what I want is I
Yeah,
want what I have with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. I want green
green.
in the vegan leather,
So,
but I think
yeah,
I prefer personally going vegan leather over green.
in the between the two colors, if I had to make a decision between the two, at the initially when we were first sitting there and we were looking in the and I noticed I got the black color that I got, and
Hmm.
at that point by the way, I did not open the box yet. This was just me reading the color on the back of the box, and nobody
Sure.
had opened it because there was a thing going on. I initially actually tried to go back and see if they were willing to switch me to a green. And then our friend over at OnePlus kind of gave me the heads up. It's like, well, just so you know, it's two different materials. They're not all the same, just different colors.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was expecting. And then, yes, I'm with you. I prefer going with the fake leather, the vegan leather, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
material on the black one. I think that one looks
Leatherette.
well. But not only that, it also turns out to be the lighter of all three colors.
Yeah.
If you had to kind of compare just the OnePlus by
Well,
itself,
because
it's like about
the other
five
one
grams.
is like a glass chemically
The
treated
the
glass or
material,
something.
yeah,
So
the
it
material that they
actually
have
does save
on,
you another 5 grams.
which is, I mean, not that I was sitting there like, oh my god, that was a deal
But I mean, it's
breaker.
the difference between that and a bumper case.
Well, no, absolutely, but I mean, they both
Yeah.
get the
So
bumper
you
case.
have more side protection at the same weight
Hmm.
going with the vegan leather option. But really, I just for the few times I've even peeled it out of that case, I just like the feel of holding on to it
Yeah,
without a glass back. So
absolutely.
if we could get a couple more color options like that, I would love green in
But that's why I
or
went. That was
blue.
why I was asking for it. I've enjoyed the OnePlus green color for quite some time. Prior to that, it used to be the OnePlus blue. They used to do blue very
Yeah.
nicely. But then they changed
I
over,
mean,
so green became the thing after the whole
nothing
Thunder
beats
Purple.
Purple though.
That Thunder Purple, I know.
OnePlus Thunder Purple is
Thunder
still my
Buddies, right,
fave.
my friend? With Thunder Buddies for life.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Every time we say Thunder Purple, it's like I get Thunder Buddies. Oh my god. Okay, sorry, my brain
Thunder
goes.
Buddies, they fight crime.
But yes, so the biggest thing I'll probably say is on the gold side, the gold felt very close to the green. But then
Mm,
again, when you put it in a case, the case on I
yeah,
think all three is pretty much the same. It's that plasticky faux leather
black
look.
plastic bumper. Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like that old Samsung, I think Note 4, the removable back one that had that fake
yeah, it feels a
plastic
lot
thing.
like that.
Yeah,
It's a little bit more rigid. It doesn't have quite the same squish as
yeah,
the proper vegan leather, but it's not sandstone and it's
exactly.
not hard plastic like Vivo's.
Exactly.
The
Well,
Vivo
so
black bumper
so
is a harder
surprisingly,
plastic.
OnePlus does have a protective case. They did put out a protective case in
Oh,
both black and green. It's on their website, but it's not available yet. It just says notify me. And it was like $50, but it definitely looks nice. And I'm
nice.
almost tempted that if I do pick that one up, I probably will pick up the green one just so that I'm able to kind of play a
So
little bit of switcheroos.
I'm hoping. I've already forgotten the name of the company, but he was bouncing around in the chat for a second. Michael Peppertech
Hmm.
was the one who clued me in on my Pixel Fold case, and this was
Okay.
like one of the least expensive Pixel Fold cases on Amazon,
Hmm.
and it's phenomenally good. I have not taken my
I
Pixel
saw I
Fold
saw some
out of
cases
this case.
on the open
So
on Amazon,
I
but they
need to
just
see
were
if the
delayed.
same company that made this
Hmm.
has also made one for the OnePlus Open. I think I'm gonna give that a try, and
Hmm.
hopefully it's another like $7 case because
I'm
that's
hoping.
crazy for foldables right now.
It
Is to
is,
get
and this one because it doesn't have any curved edges or whatever. It's pretty much
should be
it's an
pretty
a
straightforward.
pretty
Yeah,
straightforward case to make, and the dimensions and everything. Again, it closes flat. There's no gap that goes through. Speakers sound fantastic. The fingerprint sensor is very responsive. The UI elements and everything on the outside runs exactly as a OnePlus device would look. You open it up and everything just mirrors and runs with it. I would say my only thing, and it isn't a OnePlus thing, but the navigation bar, if you do want to install a third-party launcher, just be aware that that goes away. That
yeah.
Android does not allow us to share that function with third-party custom launchers. And I think this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent with as we've been since ever, even Android 12. Custom launchers don't get all the love. Like custom launchers pretty much basically say, hey, I want to live in that
Yeah,
custom launcher. And
they've
especially
been
on
getting
foldables.
the short
Yeah.
staff since Android 11.
Well,
So
yes, Samsung has been doing the same thing. Yeah, they removed some of their functionalities the moment you change the launcher. And OnePlus, the thing I liked about the navigation bar at the bottom is, as you're in there in the standard launcher, when you're using it in tablet mode, it's sitting prominent. When you open up an app, it stays right there at the bottom. It just
hmm
shrinks down, and you're able to hide it if you want to. So you can hide the bar and bring it back up. But once you switch to, let's say, Nova or anything else, that entire functionality goes out.
it all breaks.
The
Yeah,
side, but though the side launcher doesn't go away, so you still have access to that recent in the sidebar
yeah.
if you like it,
It's
but it's
just
just not the
the
same.
most recent improvements are coming to that taskbar, and I'm
Oh, absolutely.
hoping
No, no,
that
I
we'll
know.
see some
One
better
of the
support
reasons
for
why
that.
I have not installed Nova, I think again with the things that I like about what I do with Nova and everything, it's like I'll say this. Phone clone for OnePlus right now does great at transferring all of our data and all of our options, but it does not
Hmm.
transfer your home screen organizational setup. So when I was transferring from my Find X6 Pro over to the OnePlus Open, it didn't it transferred all the apps, but it didn't. My home screen was just not organized correctly. I think that's 90% why I like Nova. Everything is in the spot that I remember it. It's muscle memory automatic. I don't
Yeah.
have to relearn where my apps are, and that was about my only thing that I
So
had to
I was
reconfigure
all
on this
into
one.
that, and then for our videos, I went and tested the desktop mode, and it crashed, and it nuked all of my home screens. So if you see the video that I put together on productivity, I am not being very productive because my
You had
open
to
home
really.
screens are totally blank. And I
I
really couldn't take the time to like put everything back together and put the folders in, and because like I just shot that B-roll of here's what it looks like when you plug on. Oh no, it nuked my home screen.
it's one of those things we have to, like, when you're using something that is again unique to every device, like a custom launcher makes our life easier.
Yeah,
And Nova runs beautifully on this. There's no issues with Nova, nothing
but it's
wrong with
just
it.
that additional
But is that
functionality on
additional
top.
functionality you have to do. And yeah, so that was my only thing. I typically would have installed Nova on it right away, but I think for my
Sure.
videos and so on, I wanted to keep it as the stock launcher, and I like it. I like Oxygen OS. I like what
So
they're doing, and I hope
we've
obviously more features to come in with 14, Android
we've
14.
had a
We'll see what this is.
lot of conversations about foldables since like the first couple generations of Samsung Z Folds.
Hmm.
Um, I actually, instead of me prefacing this, I don't want to set this up any different. This year we've had the Pixel Fold, the
Hmm.
Galaxy Z Fold, and
Yep.
now the OnePlus Open here in the United States.
Yep.
Has this year, not one product specifically, but has this year changed your mind about how or who you would recommend a folding tablet to?
So this would be this has been the first year where I've actually actively convinced one of my family members to go to a foldable, which is weird.
A folding tablet or a flip style?
No, folding tablet.
Okay.
It's a Z Fold 5
Right.
specifically. So it's okay. So I'll say this: we've gone to the point where yes, it is a foldable. Yes, you shouldn't treat it as a tablet with a glass display, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not as fragile as they used to be. Like
Okay.
I was playing first person shooter games where it has to be millisecond of tapping and getting into the right level. You don't, otherwise you're losing the game. You're not playing it.
Right.
And this is again the generational improvement that we've seen
Yeah.
there. This,
I let a 7-year-old play tower defense
no,
on my OnePlus Open. So yeah, I get
and
what you're saying.
a buddy of mine, or I'm sure you probably know him, Ben Singh from
Yeah,
XDA.
Ben.
So right before he got on the flight to go, because he was also with me during my trip on to Singapore, he was riding his bike in LA, and he had the fold, the open in his pocket. And Ben doesn't like to put cases on. No
Mm-hmm.
case. The phone fell out of his pocket while he was riding a bike, and he even caught
Yeah.
it on camera. Lands on concrete, my friend. Bounces a couple of times and then face down to the ground. The phone worked beautifully. It had dings on the side, obviously, because
Oh,
it
sure.
landed on concrete. The display didn't shatter. The display is not damaged by any means. The phone still runs beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the design, the materials that they went with this. Again, this is the only
It's
way I can
more
say it is
robust than you think it will be. Yeah.
yes, it is way more robust than you think. And this is why I'm feeling like when I recommended something, like even if it wasn't obviously, I'll tell you this much. My brother really wanted this. My
Mm-hmm.
brother wanted the OnePlus Open, and he was like, if they send you two, please make sure. And I'm like,
You have that one family. I have one family member also like, well, if they send you another one, you're like, they're not going to send me another
yeah,
one.
I'm
I'm not
like,
going to give it to
they're not
you.
gonna
You
send
get
me two. It's not like so. The thing is, I gave him my old Z Fold 4, and he liked it. It was pretty decent. It was like really crazy. Samsung decided to do $1,200 for a Z Fold 4. I'm like, I don't know how that
yeah,
made sense after the launch event,
sure.
but I told him, I said, look, you have the Fold, it's yours. If you trade it in for five maybe $600 more, you can get yourself a brand new one with the warranty. Everything will be under your name. You don't have to worry about whatever. And he chose that,
Yeah,
and he went with the Z Fold 5, and he's happy with it. This is the weird thing. It's
yeah.
been 2 months now, and I don't think I would have made that same recommendation maybe a year or maybe 2 years ago yet to a family member,
Mm-hmm.
because it's more about like the not only the stability of me just trusting it blindly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't treat this phone differently than I treat a regular phone anymore. Once you've had a few generations of these guys, you realize obviously they're not built like with feathers and down pillows or whatever. They're able to handle certain things. I feel like comfortable now that I think, yeah, we're able to get to the point where Samsung's putting out the Z Flip 5, the Motorola's Razr 40, or the Razr Plus. These
Right.
are legit well-built material devices, and I think we need to appreciate that. So I'm actually much easily able to recommend a device like that, but it's still not a recommendation for everybody. Not everybody's going to be able to enjoy
I'm
this form
I'm
factor.
I'm not as far along as you are. I feel like I was still trained with the duos and glass screens.
Hmm.
And I look at some of my family members who have phones on contract still with busted screens and knowing like,
So much,
oh,
yeah,
that
so
that
many.
can't exist with a foldable. You can't have the cracked screen on
No.
the inside of any folding or any flip or fold style phone. So I'm still very conservative. When I wrapped up my initial review all that time ago on the Duo 2,
Hmm.
I still came to a conclusion where I was like, hey, this is a public beta. There is no such thing as a mainstream idea of a folding mini tablet that turns into a phone. These are
Yeah.
all beta tests that you can buy in
And,
and
and
try.
and and I think even to this point, we have to also give it the fact that, yeah, how are repairs going to go
Oh
with
yeah.
OnePlus and something like this?
Oh yeah.
Because Samsung, with all of the things that we talk about, and obviously they don't, everything gets improved with software. There's quite a bit of issues with their repair centers,
Yeah.
claiming things that are not there, or claiming things that are there but they're different than what you submit. Like, you send them a pristine device and then suddenly they're like, "Oh no, the display's cracked." I'm like, "Where? Show me." They can't prove it. This is
Right.
trade. I mean, I'm talking obviously about their trade-in, but their service
Sure, sure,
department
sure,
as
sure, sure.
well. I've heard other stories on Twitter as well. So this is literally the time where I feel like OnePlus needs to hold their standards, and where they gave us the highest quality device that they be able to put out for many years as a foldable. Hold to
Hmm.
that and make sure the experience transitions and translates to the user experience the same way as they want people to appreciate these devices, because that's how people favor the brand. That's how people go and know to trust the brand. It's the knowing that, God forbid something happens, they got your
Yeah.
back. That's the thing. And especially like you
I
said, with these type of devices, you can't walk around with a busted, like maybe on the outside, I think, but on the
yeah.
inside, no way.
I mean, I take heart with, I mean, you were saying like, hey, I'm not really treating this much differently than I would a regular phone.
Mhm.
But I also feel as gadget reviewers, we're probably considering the handling of our devices far more than
Absolutely, yes.
someone who buys one phone every 3 years and makes that their mainstream, their main communication computer.
Or they would like
We're,
open up the phone like this and then just toss it on the thing. Like, yeah, I wouldn't do
yeah,
that. I'll close
the,
it, then toss it. But you know what I mean? Like,
I
no.
feel like tech reviewers never properly account for how we might consider a device differently than our family or friends might. But to your point, now that I've been using the Open a little bit more, and I reflect this in the video that's going to be going live in about an hour on the Patreon,
Hmm.
comparing the Open against my Duo 2, we're getting closer and closer to transitioning in a way where the things I loved about my Duo are now better replicated on these plastic screened
Yeah.
foldables. So I feel better this year about opening up who I think would be a good fit for a foldable, but it's still a very narrow recommendation. And it has to be someone, in my opinion, it has to be someone who's just the slightest intellectually curious about what their gadgets can do. I do not believe we're anywhere near. I mean, we're years and years away from a folding mini tablet where we all agree on what it should look like. Like, we all kind of agree on what the basic smartphone should look like.
Hmm.
And we're not anywhere close to that with foldables. So, someone who is in the market for this, it's not even are they going to be careful or can they afford a really expensive gadget? Will they get their money's worth out of a thing that costs more than a phone and a tablet
Absolutely.
combined?
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
biggest hurdle is, are they going to be curious enough to dig a layer deeper into menus and settings? And because then once you really start putting together what I loved about my Duo, once you really start putting it together to make it the device that's the right fit for you, I think you're highly rewarded with an experience that cannot compare to a traditional slate phone. And
Yeah.
you start looking for the things that you want to do with it, as opposed to out of the box, this is how it was set up, so I guess that's how I use it. If you do that with a foldable, I think you're boned.
Yeah.
But if you're curious in the slightest, I'm now feeling a bit more positive recommending foldables this year than I was even last year. And I think that's kind of telling the evolution of this. We're working out more of the software.
Hmm.
We're still stumbling through a bunch of gimmicks. Like a lot of the stuff that we're playing with today is gonna fail in the next year. I mean, not devices. I mean software, like
Yeah, yeah.
components and menus and gestures and things like that. We're still gonna stumble our way around those for a while to come.
Hmm.
But now I feel like you're getting a much better starter experience for someone to make something more specific to their needs, and I haven't seen that in the last couple of years. So now I'm not there to making a broad consumer recommendation, but I am opening up the audience that I think would really enjoy this.
No pun intended. You're opening up. I get it.
Pun intended.
Dang it, you're landing it, and you're landing it very well. No, no, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's big. Its biggest feature is the it's it's hard. It's hard to kind of put it like one word kind of catch all. I think from what you're getting and what OnePlus has put into the packaging of this device and being in the state that it is right now, meaning it can only get better than where we are now. And if we judge it based on where we are now, and it is the exciting level that we get with the technology and the hardware and what we're seeing on the device right now, it is an absolute fresh look at a foldable that I think we've had a single flavor of the ice cream for so many years that now we finally have multiple flavors. You know, we have Pixel, we have OnePlus, we have three
Yeah.
players playing with folding tablets in the market. And then when you flip it over on in the regular clamshell, we have Samsung and we have obviously Motorola. And Motorola just dropped the Moto
Hmm.
Razr 2023, the more affordable version.
And I
So the
wouldn't
reality is,
discount Moto's parent company
oh, Lenovo,
influencing that
yeah.
as well, because Lenovo's been playing with the slates
Oh,
being
absolutely, yeah,
foldable
yeah. No,
devices for a while.
they've
There's a
they've
lot of
cornered that
engineering
market. Yeah, yeah.
expertise that is
No,
going hand in hand. Yeah.
yeah, no, no, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I think this is the biggest thing, though. This is the year where we're seeing a lot more of those experiments that we used to see a few years before. I mean, we have three 1-inch type sensor devices that came. I mean, two technically that went out internationally, and one that went out just China only. But in
Yeah.
this is and already starting with the fact that that was at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't even the end of it. We're not even done yet. And we have more foldables, more high-end quality cameras. We're starting this, and then battery performance start getting better again. The Gen 2 definitely fixed what we had with the Gen 1 in
It
there.
was a
So
huge shot in the arm.
it's absolutely like this is like if you had to look at the time and date and combination of things to align, we have those stars aligning in many different areas, and many companies are reaping in the benefit. The Z Fold 5 lasts a lot more. It performs better, lasts longer than the Z Fold 4, hands down. I
Hmm.
recommended the Z Fold 4 to my brother because for the most part, it was basically going to be free for him. I wasn't selling it to him. I was like, hey, here's the Fold. I got cases, I got everything in there. This is the experience to actually experience what a foldable device has to offer. The 4 and the 5 are very close. I mean, there are some minor things that kind of, there are specific things in there that would be unique to him, but I told him, I said, if you like this experience and for maybe $500 more, you could get yourself a brand new one. And he did, and he's been happy with it. So that's an experience that fits what he likes.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, like I said, if I did get two of these, he would be at my house knocking on the door, like, dude, what up? How about I take that
Well,
one? Because he really wanted the
has you.
OnePlus. Yeah.
Brian Glaze has you locked up here though, because the next evolution is 3 foldables with 1-inch sensors. So next year, for us to keep getting excited about this stuff, we need to staple both together
We need
and
to
have
combine one inch
the
type
thinnest
sensor.
panels with the largest camera bulges on the market
We
today.
want a foldable that you're able to use as a fan, and then at the same time take one. I think I
So,
don't think it's too far out. I think
oh,
there's still
I think we're a
physical
ways.
aspect. No, there's
I think,
yeah, the physics are gonna. This is the reality of
yeah.
why we don't have a 1-inch sensor on here, or 1-inch type sensor. Yeah, believe me, it will be a much thicker phone. At least on one
Hmm.
side of it, it'll be more like weighted on the right where the cameras are. Um, I think I'll say this from having so we've been in many aspects, and many companies have focused heavily on hardware. And I say this because we have outside of the US other manufacturers that make much better hardware built, lighter devices, even lighter than the Fold, bigger, fully functioning external displays that support pen and internal displays that support pen, and that is still lighter, larger, faster charging devices on the market. Honor makes some of the best foldables on the market that
Yeah.
we haven't ever seen because we don't see them in our market. Xiaomi with the Mix Fold absolutely kicks when it comes down to the hardware level
Yeah,
and the
it's
camera
good.
performance that we're getting there. So again, we're constraining our view into a specific market, but internationally, there's been so much more things to play around with. Like I visited an Oppo store for the first time in my life over in the last couple of days.
That's fun.
That was
Yeah.
crazy. I'm like I walked in there, they had the N2, they had the N2 Flip in there, and then they have the A series, and then they had the Reno 10 Pro Plus. I was like, it's crazy. And then they're like, yeah, by Friday we'll have the new devices. And I'm like, I'm not here on Friday. So it's like it was just a bummer. But yeah, it was still exciting. And Singapore is amazing. It's a beautiful country. Everybody's very friendly. No language issues at all. Everybody spoke English. To me, it was like amazing. I didn't have to worry. Like I felt comfortable to go walk around by myself for many
Hmm.
areas. And just the cultural, the melting pot of cultures in there, and just the sheer beauty. So it's amazing, and it was a
Yeah.
great place. Like in my video, you're going to see for the when I do my camera video, there's going to be a lot of content from Singapore and a lot
Nice.
of low light photography, like some serious. There was one shot where I had it right over the pool with the skylight of the building, so you had the reflection with the water, with
So
like
artistic.
very much cinematic and artistic, the way you want to do it. Yeah, I
So
mean,
I want us to sort of start wrapping up
yeah,
because we try to make this a 90-minute show, even though we usually fail. But Haas Sam actually has our transition question here.
I love it.
Do you see Tensor 3 to be a good chip enough for Google's next foldable? And I've been spending a lot of time with the Pixel Fold. We've both
Yeah,
been spending a little time with the Pixel 8 Pro.
I have some
Um,
thoughts on the 8 Pro, but yeah,
so I want to like I still don't feel like I am prepared to deliver that conclusive verdict review style conversation,
hmm
but for every improvement that I think we've seen with this next iteration of Tensor, where
hmm
Tensor 3 feels like a proper step of improvement over
up
Tensor
to
1, where Tensor 2 felt like more just a slight GPU bump over
hmm
Tensor 1, I'm still a little concerned about the Samsung radio. I feel like there also needs to be yet another update or a little bit more polish there too.
yeah.
And you just spent some time traveling in a bunch of different regions where that would matter even
I
more.
replicate yeah, I replicated what I had back in MWC when I took the 7
Sure.
Pro with me.
Well, describe what did you have back in MWC, TK?
So, okay, so my challenge back at the NWC was obviously, as you know, show floor all day. You're never back at the hotel. You need something that lasts you all day. And obviously, I do carry with me a battery pack. I'm not oblivious to the fact that I am putting way more stress on this device than I typically would have put it out there.
Sure.
But in general, when I was comparing usage and battery performance, and just general battery drain, running an eSIM and a SIM on a device concurrently, not just turning one off and turning back on, but basically I installed an eSIM to get data while I'm traveling because T-Mobile doesn't always give us the fastest data internationally. They do give us free, but it's slow data. So I'm running my Airalo SIM for the local carrier in Spain, and I was running T-Mobile in the background. My battery drain was not only increased because the phone had to consistently look for two separate connections all the time. It wasn't just trying to catch the connection and keep a good strong signal on one. On top of the fact that the phone was running hot just from the sheer of the Tensor 2. This is just part of how we had it. If you
Yeah.
used it for any kind of multitasking, even before
Sure.
starting pushing it to take video. So that was my experience with the Tensor 2.
Now,
Tensor
Tensor
3,
3.
it's better. It's better. The
It is.
heating is
It
it
is.
is it, and I'll say that it was obviously it's not the same country. I didn't replicate the exact same configuration, but in Singapore I had to do the exact same thing. I was running a SIM card, a secondary SIM card, and my T-Mobile was my primarily SIM card in there because my SIM card right now is in the 8 Pro. I didn't. That's when I said I was like I'm transitioning. I think once I'm done with my review on the 8 Pro and start putting some content on that one, that's where my SIM card's going into the open. The performance is better. I will say that the phone still does, if you're pushing they were taking a lot of videos and a lot of photos. Like I was at an event and I was literally consistently capturing shots and editing and posting and doing a whole bunch of stuff. You will get a little bit of that warm up under the camera sensor, but it took a lot longer for me to get there than what I used to
Yeah.
get with the 7 Pro. 7 Pro was like, you're there. This
7 Pro just felt like it was full throttle
exactly
all the
yeah.
time. Like it
So
was working and struggling to keep up. I
Tensor
haven't
3
had
has
those
some
experiences
serious
with
improvements,
Tensor 3.
and
Yeah.
you will. I mean, if you're coming from a 2, you're definitely going to see it, and it is worth it. So will it do better on a foldable? We'll have to see with the optimizations. I mean, it's all going to come down to how Google manages, like you said, the radios, the
Yeah,
performance, and the
I'm
thermals.
I'm I'm a little anxious, but
Hmm.
again, it's if you're a fan of pixels and you like what a pixel does, this is improvement.
Yeah.
My perception of Pixel 8 Pro was a little colored by the fact that when I went out to Albuquerque to go hit this balloon fiesta,
Hmm.
the phone I was coming from, I had most recently put my SIM card in the OnePlus 11. The OnePlus 11 is a stunningly good communicator. The 8 Gen 2 was such a joy this year, and Qualcomm's radio is simply fantastic.
Yeah.
So your ability, I got into the bad habit with the OnePlus 11 of not charging it for like 2 days. Because like I just leave it off the charger at night
Yeah.
and it would go even better into like low power states. It wasn't,
The
if I'm
Pixel
on
8 Pro is
Wi-Fi,
the
it's
only
so
one I have to
efficient.
do that. I have to put it on the charger at night.
And
That's one
so
thing I don't like doing with my phones. But yeah, no, sorry.
I would wake up some morning and be like, oh, I got to take Lex to school, and I'd look at my phone, it would be down to like 20%. You're like, that's enough to get her to school and back, and then I'll charge it, plug it in for 10 minutes, and it'll be
Hmm.
ready to go for another day. And switching from that OnePlus 11 to traveling with the Pixel 8 Pro, and it's a cold, cold morning under the shadow of the Albuquerque Mountains, the Sandias, and I'm watching these balloons firing up, and I
That
am
was a beautiful
running
shot.
that Pixel 8 camera hard. But I'm also in an area surrounded by people and little mini pop-up cell towers, and the network coverage is not great out in that open area, except they're trying to plug it in with more mobile gear, and that phone was working to stay connected and communicate with people and fire up a ton of photos and videos and samples and stuff. I don't know that a Qualcomm powered phone would have been dramatically better in a very aggressive use case scenario like that, but my guess is it would have been a little bit better
Hmm.
at handling all of that radio management stuff to then take some of the load off of the cameras. And especially the way that Pixels still process images is computationally intense. So you
It
take
is.
a
It
couple
is.
shots and it's working on those shots in the
Exactly.
background.
You have to wait. You have to wait for those shots to process, and that was
So,
about my one thing when you're running in areas when you don't have very strong networks connection
mhm.
on them. Having to leverage online tools that require internet connection is a bummer. So that was one
But
thing. Like when I was traveling, that took
yeah,
a little bit. I had to wait till I was in a good area with good Wi-Fi to leverage the online functionalities, because some of them, when you have bad enough of a connection, they don't even show up in the photo app. Like the Magic Eraser wasn't showing up for me.
right.
The editor,
The
sorry,
Magic Editor, right.
Magic Editor. Yeah.
So I feel that when we get into next year, we have an extremely interesting year ahead of us in the silicon industry. Just as a one-to-one, I have to believe if you did nothing but switch the Pixel Fold from a Tensor 2 to a Tensor 3,
Hmm.
that would be a noticeable improvement to Pixel users.
Absolutely.
I still feel like someone coming from a Z Fold or a OnePlus Open would use that Tensor 3, and I don't think it would feel like a lateral move. I think it would feel a little like a downgrade when you look at all of the little permutations. But if the rumors are true
Hmm.
that Qualcomm couldn't land as much of TSMC's fab capacity at 3 nanometers, and that they might be partnering with Samsung again for the
Oh,
Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and TSMC is working directly with MediaTek for the Dimensity 9300, and those core configurations are very different for what Qualcomm is going to be doing versus what MediaTek is going to be doing.
Well, yeah, that event is like next week too. Yeah, the
Well, it's
Qualcomm Tech
starting next
Summit
week
is
with
next week.
Qualcomm, and then we're going to have another MediaTek summit
true.
shortly
Yeah.
after.
Very true.
All of that stuff is going to get really complicated because I really hope we're not in for another year like the 8 Gen 1 because Samsung is doing the chip fab. Qualcomm's radios are still better, but when you've got to put all of the components together through Samsung's process, and that seemed to be what held us back on the 8 Gen 1 and the 888,
Yeah.
that to me makes me really anxious. So in a weird convoluted way where Google is working with Samsung to make Tensor 3, if 8 Gen 3 doesn't display the same efficiency as 8 Gen 2, the performance per watt, Tensor 3 might actually get a stay of execution in North America because we're probably not going to get a ton of phones out here with Dimensity 9300s. So
No.
Tensor 3
Very
might
few.
be
Very few actually.
okay-ish in the grand scheme of comparisons where AI is a major focus. We'll all say, I don't think Tensor is the strongest chip for gaming. I think that's fair.
No, that's fair.
If you want to
fair.
game hard, go 8 Gen 2 or
But
Dimensity 9200.
yeah. I
so
agree with you on that one. Yeah.
from a productivity standpoint and from a Google Assistant and software standpoint, I think a Pixel Fold 2 with the Tensor 3 could be a good comparative buy, depending on what happens with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. But
And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing devices with the 8 Gen 3 before the year is over. This would be
Xiaomi's going to be right out there, and Oppo is going to.
No, I'm already we're already seeing some rumors and leaks on the 14.
Like, on the leaked benchmarks and stuff. Although I do have to point out that when you look at those leaked benchmarks, someone posted a benchmark leak on the OnePlus Open, and you could tell they weren't running it in performance mode.
Oh yeah. That's
the performance mode single core score is almost 30% higher than the standard mode. I mean, when you tell
that
it,
tells you also that that's not they're not a user of Oxygen or Color OS from before. They don't know about that. Yeah.
So Hassam, that was an extremely rambly way of kind of digging through a bunch of silicon information, but it's never as cut and dry as is this better because of this one feature? If you're looking at foldables and you go, it doesn't have wireless charging, but it has everything else that I like, but someone said wireless charging was a deal breaker, are you really going to give up on everything else that you like? Or do you make the compromise and say, it's got everything else that I like, maybe I can sit out wireless charging?
Or just get a case that brings in wireless charging. If you really need that wireless charging function, there are cases that come out that you're able to add wireless charging to.
Yeah, you can pop some coils into the USB port. But the point generally being
is that
if what you like about Pixel devices is the pixely googly stuff, then you make a compromise on something like the highest tier of gaming performance. And there isn't a single phone out there that doesn't come with some kind of compromise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single phone comes with some kind of compromise. And this is where it gets really tricky. Like, for everything that I like about that Pixel Fold, and I actually kind of like the form factor, and I like the orientation of the aspect ratio a little bit better than the OnePlus Open. But the OnePlus Open has presented me with so many high-level power user features that between the two, I can make some of those compromises. Like, I want a screen that's shaped like this, but I also want video output, and I also want some of that performance that I see from the 8 Gen 2.
Yeah.
It's the problem is we're still talking about $1,000 and more expensive phones in such a lowest common denominator way that I think it's impossible for consumers to get any kind of nuance. What would actually be something that would be a better fit for their needs? And you've got a bunch of people going, oh, but the N22 score and the cameras are okay. And you're like, that doesn't help. This thing is $1,700 before trade-ins. You gotta be able to show me anything else that would help motivate that purchase or inform that consumer,
Yeah,
and that's absolutely not what we're
I
getting in this conversation right now.
and because it seems like it's more predetermined. It's a device they're not interested in, and
Yeah,
they don't necessarily agree with maybe parts of it, so they're just justifying their answer. But I think you're right. When you're starting to make a statement, when you're making a fact or maybe a statement of opinion on something specific, point to something that you're able to talk about, something that you have reference to, and so you're able to back up the claim that you're putting. Again, a comment saying, bad slow processor and blah blah blah, and I'm like, you're trolling me, man. I'm not playing that game. You know what I mean? Like, it's not worth it. But you really need to kind of appreciate what this is, what they have done, the
yeah,
level of investment of time. Again, this is a third generation foldable, and I can't emphasize this hard enough because we keep thinking about it as in it's brand new. Like, yes, it is. It's
yeah.
new
One
to the
of
label of OnePlus, but it is a third generation Oppo.
right. One of the comments on mine is everything is the best until it's not. Time will tell. Come back after a few months. Like, what does that even mean? That's the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen. Like, thank you for sharing that comment. You have made everyone in my comments stupider for having
Uh,
typed on your keyboard.
Everything is great till it's not.
Because
Okay,
you
great. Okay.
know that for whatever brand that person is a fan of,
Hmm.
they have to act like their favorite brand is perfect and the best forever.
Yeah. No, I know.
Whereas the inevitability is in about 6 months, something else is going to come out. Like, there is no
And
part of
and
technology
and
where
that same
in six
company is going to
months,
treat that device that you have in hand as it does
it's
not
like,
exist.
look at all the bar graphs that just prove the thing you bought from us last year should be thrown in the garbage.
No, I really do. I really think I'm hoping that at some point or another, OnePlus is able to start getting some of these devices at like Best Buys or something like that, because I really feel like people need to be able to try this out. I think Verizon tweeted saying that it's been certified that it runs on Verizon, although they didn't say UW. I think it just probably runs on sub six.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it should be,
definitely.
you should be able to buy this and then use it on any carrier in the US. Doesn't matter if it's an NVMO or whatever, because if they're using services through if like you're on Mint and they're using T-Mobile, it's going to run. You need to work with the
Hmm.
company maybe to get it whitelisted or added in there, whatever, but it'll run. And the good thing about it is I've tested on T-Mobile, I've tested on not OnePlus, on AT&T. It works perfect.
Nice.
I don't have Verizon. Unfortunately, if I did, I would have tested it there. But I think overall, it's worth checking out if you're looking for a foldable. This is OnePlus's best device that happens to also be the best foldable they've ever made, based on what Oppo's been doing for the last 3 years and bringing in their savoir-faire and all of their technologies. We're just seeing it for the first time in the U.S. market under their label, but
Hmm.
it's reality. And the world, actually, not just us, the world is finally seeing Oppo's foldables because they've never released them internationally. The N2 and the
Yeah,
N1, or the first N, were only China. So this is exciting. This is exciting. I'm can't wait to see what 2024 has in store for us.
for sure.
I know the year is not yet done. Um, I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stuff coming up next week from Summit. I am not going to be at Summit. I'm not going to try to make it sound like I'm going
Me
everywhere.
neither. Yeah.
So I know it's a little bit different this year. Obviously, hopefully everything kind of, the expectations obviously is the HN 3, some more XR, VR, more improvements in technology, probably better improvements in audio, as typically we see at this event. But a little birdie told me that some of our favorite brands are going to be there. So there are going to be quite a few companies also
Interesting.
announcing. So I'm not going to say who,
Funny
uh, but
that.
I will say brands with an S at the end, so that it becomes a little bit more vague and kind of thing. I don't know why I just did that. So that's the exciting stuff for next week. What
Hmm.
I mean, other than I think the buy the benchmark is already out. So you're putting out your
By the
um
Benchmarks is out on Patreon, and
yeah.
Duo 2 versus OnePlus Open is going up in about a half hour
Okay.
on the Patreon.
Good, good.
I'll probably put it out if, again, with video uploading and some other work that I need to get done. The public version will either go up live over the weekend, or I might save it for Tuesday just for
Okay.
something fun. And then TK and I both have some additional follow-up videos for the OnePlus that we want to put together, where
Yeah.
TK has spent more time with the Z Folds than I have, so he's going to
Yeah.
come visit my channel to talk about Samsung, and I've spent a little bit more time with the Pixel Fold,
Pixel side.
so I'm
Yeah.
going to go visit his channel to talk about Google and compare some of these foldables against each other. We're going to have OnePlus versus Samsung versus
Pixel.
Google versus Oppo versus Duos. We've got a good round robin of
Oh,
different
absolutely.
comparison points that we're going to share.
Yeah. And honestly, if I wasn't traveling, it would have been sooner than later. But I think we'll have a little bit more time to focus on that. For me, I was thinking actually about putting out one more video on the open. Sorry, I keep wanting to call it the fold. Probably this weekend, more so referencing traveling with it, using it
Yeah.
when you're going abroad, using it with
Yeah.
multiple carriers, connectivity, workflow. What
Yeah.
can you not do?
That
And
data stuff is pretty huge.
oh yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's the biggest thing for me that I appreciate these devices. It does, you start really feeling the multitasking and the PC like experience when you're having to rely only on this and not have to open up your laptop to do the work. That's the biggest thing that we really need to emphasize here. That internal display is really supposed to mirror not just a tablet, but more of a like a PC like experience. And I think this is what we're getting here. And having video out is a big deal. A lot of people may not be covering it, but it is absolutely a big deal when you're traveling. That minimizing effect, again, the glasses totally do it, which to me, as soon as we're done, I'm going to be like digging half my office because I got a new pair that I need to do a video on, and I
Yep.
put them somewhere. I don't know what they're.
Oh, the hustle never stops.
No, and I hope I'm just hoping, yeah. Like, I hope I don't lose them because that's a bummer. But yeah, no, for sure. So that'll be my video for this weekend. Hopefully, obviously, more things coming up. I've built up a backlog. Every time I travel, I get more stuff and more things get delivered. So yeah, I'm excited for new things to talk and more OnePlus. Oh, and Pixel 8. I got to start doing more Pixel stuff.
Yep.
For sure.
So I'm going to be definitely taking a look at some of that too. So when I said the OnePlus Open was my performance charts, I also included the Pixel 8 Pro in that.
Okay.
So they're sort of a combined by the benchmarks, showing the advances that we've seen Tensor 2 to Tensor 3, and then also how surprising I think this foldable performance is from the OnePlus Open. So folks, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a crazy week as we've been running all around and playing with some new toys and some new gear, but there's plenty more. We're still smack dab in the peak of Techtober,
Yeah.
and there's even more that's going to be hitting. Again, I've got 3 things on my desk again that I can't show people as we get closer to Thanksgiving and Black Friday sales and holiday stuff. So we're wind sprinting through till the end of the year, and I'm glad you're all along for the ride because it's going to be some good stuff.
Thanksgiving. Yep, that's crazy, man. For sure. But
yeah.
Make sure to catch Juan on Monday with the SCGQA. If you guys would like to listen into the replay crew, the audio version of this podcast will be coming out very soon. Links will be in the description below, of course, for you guys to be able to check out. But with that being said, thank you to everybody for hanging out with us on this beautiful Friday afternoon with really hot temperatures here in Southern California. I hope you're cool wherever you are. We'll see you guys next week for another episode.
Yeah. Bam.